Welcome back to our B7.1 build. We're getting this ready for Ryan Cavalieri to roll out in a couple weeks at Trackside Raceway. And let's get into the ball diff build. First thing, I'm actually going to clamp down our thrust spring here. I'm using a bearing puller for this so I can keep it nice and straight, not put any side load or cause that to tweak any, and I'm just going to set that aside for a while we work on the other stuff. Alright, one thing we want to be sure of is that all of the parts are perfectly clean. So I've got our Pro Parts cleaner here, and I'm using some 99% isopropyl alcohol, and I picked this up on Amazon a couple years ago for, I don't know, 10-15 bucks, and it is still going. So for diff balls, I'm going to upgrade to the 1UP Racing Precision Carbide Diff Balls, and these are tungsten carbide, really good quality balls at a really fair price. And I'm just going to dump those right into our cleaning basket. There we go. For our diff rings, I'm using the Factory Team 6576 Precision Ground Diff Rings. In the cleaner they go. We're going to be using the stock thrust assembly here. Tighten that up, shake them off. And we pull the inner basket out. Dry that off a little bit, and then we'll dump those out. That way we ensure there's no machining oils left over or anything that's going to cause our diff grease or our thrust grease to be contaminated in any way, and that could cause diff slipping, premature wear. We don't want that. We want those parts really nice and clean. For the ball bearings, I'm just using the stock bearings from Associated. Those are greased, and that's what we want. We don't want to oil those because the centrifugal force could pull the oil out, and then again we get into that contamination issue. I'm going to clean off the out drives on this surface where the diff ring is going to mate up. And again, I'm just using that same isopropyl alcohol. Works very well for cleaning. And it's really inexpensive. You can see the residue that comes off. Great for making sure these get machined well, but not so great when you want to ensure your diff isn't slipping. So there we go. Nice and clean part. For our greases, I'm going to be using our Pro Pack here, and it's going to be the pink diff grease and the gold anti-wear grease. These are available on their own in our Pro Ball Diff grease set, and that's 120504. Or if you want to get the whole set with our bearing oil, our CV oil, and our O-ring grease, that's our Pro Pack 120502. We'll start off here with the pink grease. And what I'm going to do is just apply a little bit of this to the out drive. Then we'll put our ring right against that. As you can see, that holds it securely there, and that's not going to slip. So there we go. Now, we actually want to pack a good amount of this diff grease into our ball diff here. So before I even put the bearings in, I'm going to smear it around here. Get a good amount of that, and then we'll press it out as the bearing goes in so you can see a good amount of grease caught up there in the middle. And what we're doing with that is actually trying to thicken the viscosity of the diffs. Since we don't have the option of using silicone oils for the diff where we can change the viscosity, we're doing that by just kind of packing a lot of our grease in. And our pink grease is actually really tacky. So the benefit to that, as tracks are getting higher and higher bite, is you're going to get more on-power steering, and you kind of learn how to drive a little bit more on-power. Whereas if you're using a thinner diff grease, it's going to create more forward traction, which is pretty good in lower bite tracks, but not so ideal as the grip comes up. You can see I'm working the pink grease into the diff there. We're just going to start dropping the diff balls in. Those fall right into place. We've got all our diff balls seated in there. I'm going to pack even more grease on top. So there you go. You can see we've got a good amount of grease built up on that side. I'm going to do the same, just add more to the back side here. We'll pop that into the out drive, right over the bearing there. Slide our other bearing on. As you can see, a good amount of diff grease in there. It kind of pushes out the back side there. Now back to our thrust spring. We've let that sit, and I'm going to work this back and forth. And you can do the same thing with pliers. I don't like needle nose pliers so much, or at least short ones. If you have longer one, it'll work pretty well. But I just try to make sure that we're compressing this kind of straight up and down, and make sure you're not putting any side load that would cause it to tweak in any way. For our thrust assembly, we're going to be going with our gold anti-wear grease. We're not going as crazy with it, but I'm going to build some up on the screw here. Slide our first thrust washer on, and you want to make sure that if they have a groove, which these do, that groove is facing up, and then this one's going to be facing down, so that the inner thrust can roll on that smoothly in that groove. And again, our gold grease is really thick, so we're actually building up some more viscosity with this for a little thicker feeling diff. I'm just going to wipe some of the extra grease off from the outside, but there it is. Our thrust assembly built up. And on our second out drive, we're going to pack some more pink grease in there. Again, we want the pink grease to be heavy. Got this little inner lip there. We can even fit more of the grease in. So there you go. You can see that's a pretty heavy amount of grease. Now these are going to push together. And our thrust is going to go in the side that does not have the bearings on it. Our thrust spring goes over the other side, and then we have our nut. And as we're tightening it, I don't want to apply any tension yet. We're going to break this in later, and we'll add more tension then. So the tension is incredibly light. That's barely working right now. And you can just wipe away some of the excess grease that pushed out. And there it is. That's how we assemble the ball diff. I'll be doing another video once the car is fully assembled, showing you guys how to break that in properly to ensure that you get really long life out of your ball diff and ensure it stays perfectly smooth like it is feeling right now. Thanks for watching. Take care.